Following a 3-game losing streak heading into the bye week, 3 winnable games at that, Falcons fans have been up in arms about Arthur Smith's job security, prompting many to call for him to be fired immediately, which was always ridiculous. But the conversation was worthy of having, of just how secure is his job. Well, Jeff Schultz came out and reported shortly after that he won't be fired anytime soon, noting that there's been no win now or else mandate from Arthur Blank, adding, the only way Arthur Smith isn't back as Falcons head coach in 2024 is if there's evidence players are turning on him or the team completely unravels. However, Jason La Canfora of the Washington Post reported a little bit of conflicting information, stating, if the season ended now, I would include the Falcons among those looking for new coaches in 2024. He also had an anonymous quote from a current general manager saying, I think they're making a change. This is year 3 when you're supposed to show something. Arthur Blank isn't getting any younger. Somebody in the NFC South is going to save their job by winning the division. Now, to me, I'm going to go with Jeff Schultz, who's probably a little bit closer, probably a little bit more plugged in than Jason La Canfora, who is a national reporter and who has at times misreported on pretty big stories. What are your thoughts?
If there were the Braves, I'd probably go with whoever was against Jeff Schultz, because I don't think Jeff Schultz is very plugged in from the Braves. I mean, it's no disrespect. I'm just saying I don't think he has any close sources to the Braves. But Schultz, when it comes to the Falcons, has reported several things, and to my knowledge, at least from just off the top of my brain, most of them have been fairly accurate. And then when you think about how Arthur Blank has handled these situations in the past with Dan Quinn and Mike Smith and holding on too long, that's obviously his MO. So, perhaps that changes, but I don't see it changing. So yeah, I definitely sign with Schultz. I also think I can't even, is it La Canfora? I hate how I don't even really know his name. I think his article, I read his article as well as yours, and I think his was more speculation than anything. There wasn't a lot.
That's kind of the tone that I got.
There wasn't a lot of he has a plugged in source to Atlanta that says this. It was, this is what an anonymous GM says, and this is what I believe. So I definitely think Arthur Smith's job is safe for now. I think we talked about this briefly yesterday as far as Schultz's report, Alex, and I wouldn't say it's 100% safe for 2024. I would say maybe 85% chance he's back for 2024. But like you said, it's gonna take a pretty dramatic. But like I said, we're kind of in the middle of something pretty dramatic. And is it going to get better after the bye week? You got the Saints at home. You lose that game, all of a sudden you're 4-7, and your playoff hopes are pretty much dashed. With what, 7 weeks to go, 6 weeks to go? I mean, that right there, that's a 4-game skid with all the talent that we put into this roster and all the money that we put in and all those resources. And then you go on a 4-game skid. We're pretty much 6 weeks left in the season, and you're already out of the playoffs. I don't know how the players don't start questioning your decisions at that point, but a lot will depend on what happens against the Saints. I think these conversations that we're having right now will be different for better or for worse. So he will either secure his job for next season against the Saints, or we could be having legitimate conversations where we don't know if he's going to come back if he loses, especially embarrassingly at home after a bye week.
Yeah, and you talk about which report would you rather believe. I'm going to go ahead and stick with the one that says that Arthur Blank has some dumb, unwavering loyalty to somebody that he shouldn't. I feel like I've heard that story before. So that one, I'm leaning a little more towards that one.
Yeah, I think that all of this is pretty. I could have neither of these and tell you exactly what Arthur Blank is thinking, because we've seen this story unfold multiple times. The past 2 head coaches of the Falcons have had way too long of leashes. And I don't think that's just going to change all of a sudden, especially given the circumstances in which this regime took over. Arthur Blank knew the state of the franchise, the state of the salary cap, and what they had to work with. This was their first real season in which we could sit back here and actually judge Arthur Smith, who has a playoff caliber roster. And he is, obviously, the quarterback position falls at the feet of Arthur Smith. He is the one making that decision. But how confident can you say Arthur Smith is not the guy when you got Desmond Ridder back there or Taylor Heineke, who are very clearly not NFL caliber quarterbacks to this point? I don't know how you could look at Arthur Smith and differentiate and compartmentalize the two If you can, good for you. I necessarily can't. Who's to say Arthur Smith doesn't look like a better head coach / offensive play caller with a comparable, a capable quarterback, say a Kirk Cousins-esque veteran who's been there, done that, trustworthy? I don't know, but I can guarantee you, I would put a lot of money on Arthur Smith being the head coach in 2024. What I think is going to depend on his 2024 status is how this season ends. So how long is his leash in 2024? That's what the 7 games are all about. He makes the playoff. He's going to have 2025 to prove that he is still that guy. He doesn't make the playoffs, then maybe 2024 is like a, hey, win now or else, as Jeff Schultz would say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with necessarily anything you're saying. I still think, this Saints game could be, I just think even Arthur Blank, like he might be sitting here today with those feelings that Schultz reported. And I think a bad loss to the Saints, whether you lose embarrassingly, like you make a bunch of mistakes and you lose a close game, or you just get absolutely blown out of the building. I do think that one GM's notes where he hitched his wagon to Desmond Ridder, and that's something you can't survive. I think that purposely describes how a normal human being. Now, I'm not saying Arthur Blank is a normal human being in any situation. Most people know how I feel about Arthur Blank. I'm not a huge Arthur Blank guy, but that's how a normal human being should think, because he did hitch his wagon to Desmond Ridder. We haven't taken any shots on this. He did put his backing. He didn't even make this a competition going into the season. He's been the starter since last year, and the results haven't been there despite all the investments. So we'll have to see what happens. Coming up after the break, the Hawks win their first game of the in-season tournament. Is this something Hawks fans should get excited about?